because I suspect later on in life, as I start raising maybe a family, having responsibility to others, I won't have enough free time to optimize this stuff. I won't have time to make mistakes. So right now is the kind of optimizedly A/B test era of my life. The kind of, production system era is later on. And so I'm trying to find the particular thing, and I suspect it may be really subtle, like sulfites or garlic, that really ticks me off because I know it's out there. So the most recent hack was an elimination diet, and I recommend it to folks. The one small way it was actually really bad is for a bunch of other reasons. I wasn't eating meat, so I was only eating fish. I highly recommend if you're doing an elimination diet, you do not do that, because I ended up almost getting mercury poisoning from it. But that's one hack that isn't quite that popular today that I think will get very popular soon.
And how is 18-year-old Daniel different than mid-20s Daniel? What are some of those other things that you've optimized for and learned about yourself?
Gosh, so different. I mean, I think many people probably listening to this podcast, and we've spoken about this trait between the both of us in the past. We look back on our past self with embarrassment, right? I'm sure you've dramatically changed who you are. And I know I go back and I read old emails I wrote and I think to myself, who was that person? It may be more interesting to invert your question. In what ways am I similar to my younger self? Because I think I've changed in more ways than I've been similar. And I think one thing that I always did a lot of, that I still do, is just endless introspection, constantly kind of wondering, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? How could I improve? And I'm chewing on it, probably, again, more than I should.
Is that every day, every week, every month?
Like every minute. I mean, it's a mental thought pattern, right? I think in moderation, it's very good, because my suspicion is, I don't think I traverse the matrix, the dimensionality of options the fastest, but I think I am relentless at kind of battering at it. And so at some point, hopefully with slightly better odds than just flat out brute force, I managed to get to a good place. And this is everything for me. This has been my kind of story with food. This has been my story with working out. This has been my story with management, with product development, constantly wondering, was this good enough? How could it be improved? How could it be made better? The thing I'd recommend to anyone who does have this bug in their head that my old co-founder and very good friend, Robbie Walker, told me to highlight is, you got to make sure you celebrate victories, because otherwise you're living life like the biblical snake from Adam and Eve, where all you're tasting is the taste of dirt on the ground and you're never enjoying anything. And so you got to make sure when something great happens, you celebrate it to yourself.
How do you celebrate those victories? How do you celebrate when thousands of people apply, or, you launch Pioneer?
Classic answer to this question is, have a nice piece of chocolate or go out for a nice dinner. But of course, the thing all humans want, that is the most fundamentally, the most permanent, scarce resource on the planet, is Bitcoin. No, is attention from other humans, right? That's really what we want. We just want to be kind of loved and admired by others. And so if something great happens, I try to tell people about it. And obviously you don't want to become someone who's only interested in kind of promoting themselves, and taking this to an extreme would be bad. I try to tell people about it because I hope that they'll find it interesting. And then that gets me thinking, well, gosh, how can I do things that people will find interesting and maybe kind of contribute to the world? And I think that's a very healthy thing to optimize for. A lot of people kind of look down on, they'll tell you, you shouldn't care what other people think. I don't know. Maybe you should. Maybe you should care about what the world around you thinks, the other humans around you thinks, because humans are fundamentally the most intelligent thing we've found. And until AGI comes, the most intelligent thing we've created. And so I kind of disagree with that. And that's the way I celebrate. Is it could be a tweet. It could be telling someone a story. And the key, if you embrace the strategy, is, of course, always be attuned. Is what you're doing fundamentally interesting to the other person? Or are you just shamelessly promoting yourself? Because if you're doing the latter, boy, then that's a wonderful learning opportunity to do less of that and focus on something else.
Right. And let's talk about some of the humans that you talk to and learn from. Who are like 2 or 3 people that you've learned from over the last couple of years, or just that you picked their brains on Pioneer about?
I'll start with the first bit. In terms of people who shaped me, definitely Paul Graham is paramount. Weirdly, in not the obvious way, it was not like in the brilliant startup strategy, which he's great at. It was more, as I mentioned earlier, in this kind of, you should take this seriously. This could get really big, a kind of emotional support way. And that, that really almost radicalized me. So that's one. Another person I kind of have learned a lot from is my old co-founder, Robbie Walker, who runs Siri today at Apple. And I learned from him how kindness and empathy looks like. See, Robbie is just a fundamentally